China will stop at nothing in its quest to become the world's next economic superpower, even if it means polluting their entire country's environment to the point of devastation. Over the past few years, China has demonstrated ruthless calculus by doing just that. Scientists recently confirmed that China is the primary culprit behind the continued depletion of the Earth's ozone layer. Carbon tetrachloride, which was banned in 2010, is an ozone-depleting pollutant. A recent study unmasked that China has continued to release approximately 40,000 tons of this pollutant into the atmosphere each year. This type of behavior is truly dangerous. China is already the single largest emitter of carbon dioxide in the world. In 2017, its emissions tallied over 9 billion metric tons of CO2. That's more than the United States and the entire European Union combined. That level of pollution has been catastrophic for China's atmosphere and natural ecosystem. China's infamous toxic smog is just one consequence of the country's ecological recklessness. In some cities like Beijing, air pollution has become so severe that some residents experience long-term health problems as a result of extended exposure to the smog. But here is the real problem. China's ecological gamble is working out for them. By pursuing economic advancement and throwing environmental precautions to the wind, the Chinese government has stumbled upon a tragically successful model for growth. China is already on track to surpass the United States as the world's largest economy in the coming years. In doing so, China will become a serious threat to America's international sovereignty. That spells trouble not only for the United States, but also for the entire international community. What then is the U.S. to do? How can America compete with a nation that disregards its own environmental sustainability with reckless abandon? The first thing we must do is resist the temptation to fight fire with fire. Just because China has found economic success through extensive deforestation and poisoning its own air doesn't mean America should follow suit. The Chinese government may view the health of their own people as expendable, but that isn't the American way, nor should it be. Instead, the U.S. should use the brilliance of free markets to focus its efforts on ridding itself of dead weight, holding back the innovation of America's energy sector. That means we must eliminate the unnecessary, outdated, and cumbersome environmental regulations which prevent our energy industry from attaining its potential. There are two particularly harmful regulations that we should eliminate: CAFE standards that require certain miles per gallon performance, and PURPA, which requires utilities to buy high-cost renewable energy even when cheaper energy sources are readily available. CAFE raises the prices of all new vehicles by thousands of dollars as car manufacturers are forced to adhere to the government's regulatory standards. Unfortunately, these high prices prohibit low-income individuals from purchasing newer, more fuel-efficient cars, instead settling for older models. The result is more used, inefficient cars on America's roads, which in turn contributes to greater levels of greenhouse gas emissions into the environment. Indeed, evidence suggests that these fuel economy standards make the problem they are trying to solve worse, all while costing the American economy billions in regulatory cost. PURPA is legislation that was passed in 1978 with the purpose of stimulating conservation and the production of renewable energy. By requiring that utilities purchase power from renewable energy sources at reasonable rates, the regulation sought to encourage the use of green energy sources. But over the last 40 years, the energy sector has changed dramatically, and PURPA has failed to keep up. When the regulation was first enacted, virtually none of the utility-generated electricity was from renewable sources. Nowadays, renewable energy accounts for upwards of 15% of total energy production. Additionally, PURPA's reasonable compensation rates now far exceed the market value for renewable energy. The regulation is effectively forcing the energy sector to purchase substantially overpriced electricity, and that costs every consumer thousands of dollars per year. Reforming this old regulation would not only save consumers billions of dollars in lower utility cost, but it would also unshackle the electricity market from dangerous distortions and perverse incentives. In its current capacity, PURPA forces our energy sector to engage in long-term expensive contracts at no benefit to the producer or the consumer. Proper reform would invigorate the industry's competitive landscape and pave the way for increased innovation, lower prices, and greater economic growth in the process. If we are going to compete with China's environmental recklessness, America must embrace intelligent energy sector reform, and getting rid of counterproductive environmental regulations like CAFE and PURPA is a great place to start.